Hi, and a very warm welcome to today's episode of Wellbeing Wisdom. I'm delighted you could join me. Let me ask you a question. What makes you angry? You've probably got a long list of events and circumstances, and particularly people, that just get under your skin. There are some situations, and certainly plenty of individuals, who have a gift, having a real knack for making our blood boil, for sparking righteous indignation and fury. But the fact is that we rarely pause to consider why we feel the way that we feel. Where do these strong emotional reactions come from? Do we ever consider that perhaps feeling angry, having these outbursts, it doesn't really do us much good? It isn't good for our well-being, for our happiness, our health. It's certainly not good for our creativity. And it leaves us feeling depleted, exhausted, and sometimes just a little bit ashamed. But understanding where those feelings come from can be extremely helpful if you really want to master this particular group of emotional reactions. I know we are absolute experts when it comes to justifying the way we feel. I feel this way because we always have a great way of listing the justification for feelings after the event. But what I'd like us to do is to understand the underlying causes. And this is a very interesting insight we can all take advantage of. Whenever you feel angry, in fact, this particular insight applies to every negative emotion you can possibly experience. If you pause, and I know that's difficult when you're about to launch into full anger mode, but if you can pause for a moment and take a breath and ask yourself a very simple question: what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? Because all anger can trace its root to something that makes us scared, to something we're afraid of. And the moment that we identify the underlying cause, and let's be clear about this, it's not always clear that what you're reacting to and what you're feeling is directly connected to the underlying fear, but it's the connection which exists nonetheless. It's the root that drives this reaction. The moment you identify what you're afraid of, the simple fact of dragging that fear out into the light of reason, out into the daylight, will neutralize it. Fear can't exist when you scrutinize it. When you apply your powers of reason, logic, your rational mind to fear, it just evaporates. Think, where did it go? Fear can't exist under the light of reason. And when you find out what you're afraid of, even though it might not be comfortable, even though you might not even wish to admit it to yourself, that will break the chain. The raw fuel source that's feeding and powering your anger will switch off. I think the surprising aspect of this discovery is that it's almost like an electrical switch. 1 minute it's on, and in a heartbeat it's off. And that can dilute your anger, dissolve your fear, and it's unlikely for that particular set of circumstances will come back to affect you again. Now that's a pathway to having much greater control over your reaction to the people and events you're bound to encounter. We can't always change the world. Perhaps we shouldn't even really worry about changing the nature of the planet when we have the means to control our own reactions. That's a much healthier, it's a much quicker way of improving things. Take control of how you feel. You'll see things more clearly. You'll feel so much better. But I think more importantly, you'll be free from some of the knee-jerk reactions that make you feel angry, upset, or afraid. Pause, take a deep breath, and ask that question: what am I afraid of? Now I have to add a little caveat here, a little warning. If you're with somebody who's going through anger, asking them what they're afraid of might not be helpful. It might just fuel into their emotional responses. We have to wait until the other individual is feeling a little calmer before they can apply the light of reason, the power of their rational minds to the problem. But in our personal case, for you and for me, next time we're feeling, I'm getting so angry, ask yourself what you're afraid of. And if you want to switch it off without understanding where your anger is coming from, remember, laugh and smile. Laugh and smile. It's a fantastically powerful technique for neutralising the anger response. Most of life is fairly absurd, even though we take it terribly seriously. Laughter helps to remind us that maybe we're taking something a little too seriously. And the situation does not justify, it doesn't warrant our anger and are upset. I'd love to know what you feel. If you're the kind of person who experiences a lot of frustration or anger, it could be useful to have this technique on hand to improve the quality of your life and, by default, improve the quality of the life of the people around you. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's a beautiful day, and I will look forward to being back with you again very soon. Bye for now.